Alright, hey Marks, welcome to Off the Mark. I'm Credo. Like I always say, this is the little side project, the little brother to Marked Up. We started Marked Up. My guest today is none other than the Razz, the ladies' man, the mark of all sports. Razz, man, welcome.
Steve, man, it's great to be here. I feel like I've been shoveling snow and watching wrestling and not even sleeping. It's just wrestling and shoveling.
That's it, man. In the Northeast, that's all we've been doing is shoveling and wrestling, and not in that order, but you know what I mean. But it's been crazy, Raz. It's been a crazy ride the past few years. I mean, we became friends through pro wrestling. That's how we have been connected by friendship, is pro wrestling. And
isn't that how we all become friends, though?
That's it, man. We all start with that one thing we love, and pro wrestling was it, and it's blossomed from there. I mean, we've come a long way, Raz. We started off with Marked Up. We started on iTunes and Ustream and all that stuff, and we made our home at Spreecast. The first, I might add, the first wrestling show to actually represent Spreecast by far, and that's Marked Up. And Raz, man, let's get right into it. Tell us, man. Let's go back to the beginning. Let these guys know who are listening. Let's get into the beginning of the Razz, Credo, and Marked Up, and how it all became one, I guess.
Wow, I mean, you start with the Marks group. We started just as a small bunch. We've grown in numbers, and you threw out the idea about doing a show. We finally put it all together, and I think our first show was something like 23 minutes long.
Yeah.
And we barely couldn't get through it.
I know.
We didn't get through it, and we're like, oh my god. How are we gonna do another half-hour show? Now we're like, oh my god, we can't stop after an hour. Like, we could keep on going. So
yeah, man, that's what happens. I guess we started off small and we've blossomed big, and now with a cheap plug out to marksforlife.net, we're getting even bigger, Raz. And I mean, Marked Up is the Raw show. Let's put it out there. I mean, we are the A show. We started this. I mean, granted, there's thousands of shows out there, but there's only one great show on Spreecast, and that's Marked Up. I mean, we've come a long way, Raz. We've come a long way. We became friends with wrestling through wrestling. I mean, how did it start for you, though? That's what people want to know today. They're listening, and they're like, Raz, how did you get involved with wrestling? What's some of your first memories of pro wrestling, and how did you become to love this sports entertainment brand that we all love?
Well, Mark, sit back, enjoy this one, because you're going to love this story. And it goes like this. I was a kid who skipped over cartoons and was introduced to wrestling at a very tender age of about 2.5 and 3. Watching old school wrestling that was on TV, a lot of stuff that was showing on Madison Square Garden on the network there, all the shows. One of my favorite moments, and I'm sure all you Marks out there love this, is when that microphone came down from the rafters there, and it had like the 3 little mics on it. I mean, that was like legendary. The stuff like that stands out. But watching, the likes of all the legends, dating back to even, and I'm dating myself here, before Wrestlemania was even thought about, probably. That's how far I go back.
Wow, look at that. I mean, Raz, we all go back to that one moment, and I mean, we all have that one thing that happened that we just mark out for, and we become like obsessed with wrestling and how we got into it. I mean, is there anything you can remember? I mean, as a little Raz growing up, that becoming that little Mark. I mean, some things that really stood out to you, going to memories wise.
I mean, just seeing stuff on TV, probably the biggest thing that stands out to me is, Snuka on top of the cage. If I was old enough, I probably would have been sitting right next to Mick Foley, who was in the crowd that very night. And, that obviously turned him into a pro wrestler. I went a different path, but, I'm still a fan, to this day because of moments like that.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of things that happen like that. And for us, I mean, we grew up in Poughkeepsie at the Mid Hudson Civic Center. That was our MSG growing up from all the Raws they taped there. I mean, things that happened there we didn't really know. I mean, I kind of wish we could go back in time to what we know now and be there for when those moments happened. I mean, we had Andre the Giant lost his hair from Big John Studd at the Mid Hudson Civic Center. Randy Savage debuted Miss Elizabeth at the Mid Hudson Civic Center. A lot of these things that happen so close to home, Raz, and it's amazing. I mean,
Well, Steve, I don't want to interrupt you, but I have a great story.
sure.
Through the years with Raw being held at the Mid Hudson Civic Center, I was at all the shows. I had a friend whose aunt had worked for the USA Network, so we used to get free tickets every time. And there was one time we went to a show. It was myself, my brother, and my friend. And after the show, for those of you guys who are familiar with the Poughkeepsie area, near the Poughkeepsie Galleria, there was a hotel. I don't know what the name of it at the time was because it keeps switching names, but it's where Bananas Comedy Club is. And all of the wrestlers were there. I mean, we're talking, Jacob and Eli Blue. We're talking um, Scott Hall. We're talking my worst enemy, still to this day, just incredible. But the story I want to bring up to you is to say that I was there, and I do believe that I'm a part of the DX and the Click crotch chop.
There you
And
go.
here's how this story goes.
All right.
So I'm hanging out with Scott Hall in the bar there, and well, apparently I led to his drinking too as well, but that's besides the point. And so, sure enough, I'm like, Scott, can I get your autograph? I'm like, Razor, can I get your autograph? He's like, yeah, sure, sure. So then we start talking, saying that there was three girls that worked at Hooters over in Waterbury, Connecticut, and hopefully it's still there for all you Connecticut marks. They were like, I'm like, oh, they're staying here. They're staying here. And Scott Hall turns to me, he's like, they're staying where? I'm like, they're staying downstairs. And Scott's like, no, they're staying down here. So, as legend has it, I was a part, I believe, of the crotch chop.
Look at that, the Raz, man. There's things you don't know, Mark. You're finding out today, right now, on Off the Mark. Crazy stuff, Raz. Wrestling brings us together. Wrestling binds us. We grew up on it. We're living through it right now. We have a show on Spreecast. I mean, we are. We are wrestling. So many things happening. So many things have happened. We were at WrestleMania last year, but now, Raz, we're on the road to WrestleMania 30. And the 30, I mean, the 30 is the big number, right? I mean, it's 10, 20, 30. 30 is a big number, and for being around for 30 years, that means something. Do you like what's happening now on the road? Because right now, with the whole CM Punk situation and, Daniel Bryan, I mean, do you like what's happening, and are you happy about the road?
Not for nothing. I enjoyed being at WrestleMania last year. I know we had talked about it many times before. That we were kind of disappointed that there was. It felt like to be a very plain show.
Yeah.
And I think that had a lot to do with the build-up for the event itself. And last year, you know, rest in peace, Paul Bearer. But if Paul Bearer didn't pass away, I mean, would CM Punk and Taker have been built up that same way? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. And right now, everybody's trying to play matchmaker in terms of who's fighting who at Mania, and they're getting pissed because this guy, he should be fighting this guy, he should be in the main event, blah, blah, blah. And again, I think we're in the same boat as we were last year. Where, when, how? Like,
Yep.
I mean, are they trying to blow us away next week?
I know. Do you feel like, I mean, like WrestleMania is like the cumulate. Oh my God, I don't know the word. The culmination of things that happen through the year. Like big feuds that have happened. Daniel Bryan had a great year. He deserves to be personally in the main event this year, just from his crowd reactions to what he's getting. And it's not just because what's happening 2 weeks into Mania. I feel like you're building WrestleMania almost like it's just any other pay-per-view. And it's like things that have happened through the past year they don't even like remember anymore. And and it's just like, oh, we'll just put this match together, and I feel like it doesn't have meaning anymore, almost, to where, these things happened all year round, and now the payoff is WrestleMania. Now it's just like, well, we could throw this together or something. I just don't feel like it has that same effect of being WrestleMania as what it once was, I guess I could say.
Well, here's my issue. Last year, everybody was, they were loving Dolph Ziggler. They wanted him to cash in at Mania. Doesn't do it at Mania, but cashes in the next night. And then all of a sudden, what happened? And I was thinking about this today. I'm thinking that Cesaro is going to be going down the same path too as well. That
Yeah.
they're going to build him up. I have a feeling, and I'm just throwing it out there, that somehow he wins like Money in the Bank, cashes it in, and then what? Like, I just think that sometimes that the WWE sometimes is guilty at a lot of different things, not pushing the right guys when they can, but also at the same time they're guilty of the opposite, pushing guys when they shouldn't be just yet. So, but I am a big believer in Cesaro. I think that the sky's the limit with him. But I just have the feeling that they're going to drop the ball at him too. And everybody sits here and complains that WWE doesn't build stars. They These guys are given the opportunity, they do the job, and then they hold them down.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I think right now too is the whole thing with Cesaro is that he's filling that CM Punk void. I mean, that's a big loss. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, he was the number two, merchandise guy behind Cena, and to lose him, they need to start pushing some guys who can actually, actually be around for a little bit and wrestle. You know what I'm saying? I mean, right now I think Cesaro, all in all, is filling that CM Punk void, and I guess hopefully come Elimination Chamber or sooner or later or whatnot, we're going to see him break away from the Real Americans, and we need another solo star, and they got to push him. And like you said too, Dolph Ziggler, how last year, that's what everybody wanted to see, and then he kind of like faded away. And could it be that they're just dropping the ball lately, or I mean, do you feel that the writing's bad, or what do you think about that? I mean, does it come down to the writers, or does it come down to the man himself, Vince McMahon?
Well, here's a cheap plug. All you marks out there, make sure you're listening to Marked Up every other Thursday. But I was actually going to say the same thing that you just said there tomorrow night on the show, but it's okay. I do believe, like you said, that Cesaro is taking over that spot for CM Punk. Would they have pushed Cesaro just yet if Punk was still around? I don't know the answer to that. Um, have we all wanted him to go to single for a while? Yes. Obviously, I can see that they're going to push him probably as a face, which is good. I can see that kind of happening too as well. But kind of like you were saying, just I mean, I just don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know the exact number of weeks that we are out to WrestleMania, but we are getting closer to the end of February here, and I feel that we don't have any answers. And obviously, we still have another pay-per-view
Yeah.
to get through Elimination Chamber, which a lot of things will happen. The one thing I don't want to see happen at WrestleMania, and I think that this guy has been given an opportunity of a lifetime, and he does not deserve it, is Dave Bautista.
Yep.
I mean, if I mean, I just hope that somehow that I don't know that they take out Christian from this match and they put Batista in, and if he doesn't win, he loses his shot. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I just like I just can't stand him right now.
There's so many things I could think about. I mean, that could happen at the Elimination Chamber with Brock comes in, takes out Christian, and then somehow he gets in the mix with it. Because they're having it in his hometown. So something with Brock being there, I just feel like something could happen. That whole thing too with Batista. I mean, another big reason probably why CM Punk left, to where you get guys who work all year round, bust their ass, and then all of a sudden this guy comes back after a 4-year hiatus, doing B movies, wins the Rumble, one of the biggest pay-per-view of the year, and then it gets to be on the biggest pay-per-view of the year to wrestle Randy Orton, and it's like, this isn't Rock and Cena. Rock had more of a build, more of a following, more of a Hollywood presence than Batista ever will. And it's I don't know who was thinking this, who thought this was a good idea. Who's drinking the juice over there, Raz? Is it too many yes men or what? I mean, I said this in the group, and I said it, I think, with Josh on the last show. But is anybody afraid to tell Vince McMahon that this is a stupid idea, or I mean, I don't know. I feel like nobody is. I feel like everybody's afraid to say this is a bad idea. Don't do it. What do you think?
I mean, this all comes back to that there's no competition. Yes, there's TNA, but I think that TNA, as much as they try to compete with the WWE, they just can't. They have a product which, and we'll talk about that later, I'm sure, but it's just one of those things that I don't know. It's just like they're just throwing darts on a dartboard and just hoping that something sticks or something. But again, I've said it time and time again, is that I don't get Triple H. Like, I understand he's been doing some good things, especially at NXT. There's a lot of talent down there. But the thing that really gets me is that this guy's in charge of creative, but now he's trying to book himself and all of his boys.
I know
I
that's.
mean, you got the old age outlaws who are your tag team champions. You got Batista, who looks like a cross between Pitbull, The Rock, and the garbage man down the street.
It's
Um,
it's amazing, Raz. It's amazing. I mean, like everybody wants to joke around, like, oh, he's not just booking his friends and stuff. But when you look at what's happening, I mean, Goldust and Cody were the best tag team champions this year by far. It was great having them be together in a tag team, and then all of a sudden, the New Age Outlaws come in after our show on Old School Raw, and then the next time we see them, they're winning the tag belts, and it's just like, what is happening here? And I don't know. It blows my mind to where half of the stuff is getting they're getting away with it, and I don't know. I mean, it's a show, it's entertainment. I get it. But it's like they're going in reverse and not moving forward, especially with all the talent that they have and the new talent that could be taking spots at WrestleMania and this and that. I mean, people were scratching their head last year when Fandango had a WrestleMania match after debuting. That was his debut match. I mean, and it's like a lot of these weird off the cuff kind of things aren't gonna help you in the long run. I think. I don't know.
and not for nothing, I hope these guys aren't collecting double paychecks here. One for working in the back and then one for getting in the ring, because
Oh.
I would literally pull out my garbage can right now and just start puking.
I know, Razz. I mean, we're talking a lot about WWE, a lot about the road to WrestleMania. Let's get to know the Razz a little bit more. I mean, we started this a few years ago. We started Marked Up. We started the Marks group. We got, Marks from all over the country and all over the local areas. We're growing, and, where do you see the state, Raz, of being a wrestling fan in a few years from now? Because that's how it all started. I mean, we love the business. I mean, do you see? I don't know. Where do you see being a fan going? Do you think the business is going to change drastically in the next few years at all? Or I mean, any thoughts on that with even with local promotions and I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out there to see what sticks to the wall, kind of thing.
Not for nothing, I think the world of wrestling is going to be changing Monday night, February 24th or 25th, I can't remember, at exactly 11:05 when the WWE Network goes live. It's something that hasn't been done before in terms of the history of a wrestling company being available at the fingertips to marks out there. It's amazing that you'll be able to watch as much wrestling as you possibly can. I'm glad it's in the format that it is. Their plan looks amazing. If I could have bought it yesterday, I would have, but we have to wait until Monday morning at 9 a.m.
It is. Yeah. I'm sorry, Raz. Yeah, I just want to talk about that. Let's get to this network talk, because we are literally 5 days, 4 days, whatever away from whenever you hear this, away. And I mean, it's like Netflix. I mean, growing up, we had to watch VHS tapes. We had to collect VHS tapes. Before there was YouTube, we didn't see any of this wrestling like the kids and see it today, because, you had to go to a local show, find, I think RF Video was big back then, to where they were trading tapes and even going to, video treats and, movie stars and all that, and renting tapes. That's how it was done, back in my day, we had to get VHS tapes, with YouTube and now this whole network. I mean, Do you think it's going to make or break them? I mean, because it's kind of a gamble, but at the same time, I mean, it's also innovative to where watching any of the past pay-per-views, and it's remarkable. I mean, I can't wait for it too, and I'm going to buy it. But I mean, do you think this is a big gamble for them? Because I know we talked about it before, to where do you think they're going to lose money on this whole situation? How the guys have the payoffs from the Wrestlemania and that. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I mean, some people probably haven't heard your thoughts on this, and I figure, why not?
I mean, not for nothing. A couple of things that come to mind. One, Vince has gotten himself into a lot of things where he's lost money. The XFL and some movie ventures and things like that. But not for nothing, I don't think he's basically leveraging the company for something like this on something that's going to fail. Um, basically everything I've read from a financial standpoint, that the model makes sense. You know, on paper to us, it's like, wow, how are they going to make money? But basically, what it comes down to is they need to have two subscribers for every one person that bought a pay per view previously. Now, think about it this way: pay per view numbers are going down because of these illegal sites and
Hmm.
going to Buffalo Wild Wings or a bar to to see these things where
Yeah.
it doesn't cost you any out of pocket. So, um, the economics are changing. They're being proactive. They're jumping out in front of this and saying, "Look, we've been in business 50 years. Here's our history." Because before you couldn't get this. Like I've been saying for a long time, like I would love to buy a season of Raw, like
Yes, definitely.
first season, seconds, and it's just like, oh, I'll be able to watch that now.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
this
mean,
is fantastic.
it's exciting, because I mean, there's stuff I just haven't seen in a while, and I honestly just don't want to buy it. Like, okay, granted, I could go on YouTube and this and that, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? Like, I want to watch it on TV. I don't want to watch it on a laptop or my desktop. I want to see it for, like, almost like how it was. You know what I mean? And it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting just to watch some of these things over and over again. It's remarkable, because I don't. Can you think of any other company right now where, besides, I think the only thing I brings to mind is like HBO Go, which where they have their seasons of shows. But then again, that's not worth 50 years of wrestling. You know what I mean? That's not like as big of a library as they have. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm more excited about talking about the network than anything.
No, I get it, and that's why this is so innovative. Like it's just like it's one of those things that like it's like 50 years of history we'll be able to watch. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big, you've said before, I'm a big sports fan or whatever, and even sports teams don't have like these huge collections. It's usually just like you win a World Series, like here's a box set of like the games, like or here's like an anniversary like DVD you can watch
Yeah.
like some highlights for an hour. We're getting content that basically will keep us at our TVs, our computers, our iPads forever. Like, I mean, and we should have gotten this in the wintertime. We're a little bit
Yeah, I
colder,
know.
and we would have really, gotten good use out of this. But
I guess what it comes down to is that it's an amazing time to be a mark, an amazing time to be a wrestling fan. I mean, with all this content at our fingertips now, it was such a, like, I feel like we're being paid to plug it, but we're not. It's just exciting to, like, know what's coming out in a few days that we can get to watch and all this and that. And especially with Vince buying all these libraries of wrestling promotions that eventually we'll see all them on there too. And I mean, it's getting exciting. With it, there's a lot of endless possibilities of what they can do. Like you mentioned too, will they have all the Raws in order? Will they have all the Nitros in order? SmackDowns, all that stuff too? Because that alone would be amazing too a few years from now, if they need to entice more people to join the network. I don't know about you, but I would totally love to go and watch Raw in order again, even maybe some of the years that I did miss. But I don't know. We're marking out over it, and it's a good thing, I guess, when you think about it, because that's exactly what they want people to do, and to bring back the old fans. You know what I mean? Because a lot of guys today, I mean, they're just probably not caught up with it. They like, Cactus Jack. They like Bret Hart. They like, Hulk Hogan. They like 80s wrestling. They like 90s wrestling, but they don't really care about today. And it's going to be interesting. But Raz, man, let's get some more dirt from you, since this is off the mark with the Razz.
Dirt, huh?
What do you plan on doing this year now? Because we have a big following that goes to Buffalo Wild Wings and watches the pay-per-views. Do you think now that's going to end, or do you think we're just going to sit home now and watch the pay-per-views on our iPad? Why go to these places and give them money when we could sit home and watch it now for cheaper than we could ever do before?
I mean, not for nothing, I'll probably mix it up a little bit. Some of the bigger pay-per-views, maybe you go over there, hang out. It's good to hang out with your buddies. You don't always want to
Of
sit in
course,
front
yeah.
of the TV by yourself. You know, you kind of like, you get this clicking motion like you're clicking channels or whatever, and you become a homebody or whatever. But obviously it's going to change. The way that we watch wrestling. Hopefully it doesn't turn people off from watching. Having to watch a lot, but at the same time, I think it's also going to bring back a lot of the wrestling fans who kind of gave up on watching a long time ago. Whether it was during the era when the WWE kind of was in a little bit of trouble with the steroids and Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan and whatnot, and then when WCW took over, and then people became disinterested in the product, many different times. So,
Sure.
I know of somebody I was having a conversation with, a gentleman who's probably in his 50s, whatever, who loves wrestling. I was surprised. I'm like, oh my God, you watch Raw? Like, we're talking.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh, the network's coming. The network's coming. Like, you're going to love it. It's going to be like all the old school content. And like his first words, Bruno Sammartino.
yeah. There
I'm
you
like,
go.
absolutely.
Yeah. Raz, we talked a lot about WWE and all this and that, but let's get down to the point of TNA. Granted, we had some stunt doubles who were at the recent
Oh, yeah.
TNA old school pay-per-view sitting ringside that looked like us, but we can't really verify that it was us. But I mean, let's talk a little bit TNA, because that's one thing when people listen to our shows and come to the group, they're like, well, you guys don't talk about TNA that much. Well, we used to. But Raz, I want you to explain it, because I want this to be a lot about your point of view. Give us your thoughts on TNA today, how they market themselves, what's happening with them, and could we see the downfall of TNA? I mean, give us your thoughts. I mean, time to shoot on TNA,
Oh,
Raz.
this is going to be fun. Well, I mean, here it goes, basically. I think, their formula has been bad. They brought in all these high expensive guys. They brought in like the Ric Flairs. They brought in the Hogans, the Bischoffs, the this and that. And they were featuring these guys. And I don't think they were really, producing some of the younger talent that could eventually one day take over for these guys. Then they finally come into a situation we hear recently where they're not. They're doing poor financially,
Hmm.
and they're starting to let these guys go. And not for nothing, I mean, it's hard for me to admit this, but I think the product is getting a little bit better, based on the fact that they're putting more trust in these younger guys. They brought in the American Wolves or whatever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Obviously they brought in MVP, which I, I don't know about like how they brought him in, but I do think MVP is a pretty good talent because we've seen him on in the indie scene. Uh, but I mean, I don't know. Like, and then now I guess Jeff Hardy has got some new thing going on.
Willow. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, like I kind of agree with you that maybe, with the loss of Hogan and Sting and all these older guys. I mean, do you think it's time to actually do what WWE should be doing and push the younger guys and make stars out of them? Because you can't rely on all these old guys for much longer. You know what I mean? Like, you got to build new stars, and you always got to build new stars, because we'll jump back and forth like we saw with WWE when we lost Cena with his elbow surgery. You have nobody really to replace him right away, and that's the thing, is like you focus too much time on Hogan and like the top guys that you forget about the guys who you should be pushing and making into stars. And that's like where TNA I think was falling apart a little bit with Sting and Hogan and all that. And now, do you think they could be on a good track now with the loss of those stars?
well,
Pretty much what you're saying.
you just got me thinking a little bit about that. You said pushing the Stings, the Hogans, and things like that, and I'm saying to myself, okay, how much money were those guys making? A lot of money, probably. And it's like, okay, well, TNA is saying, well, if we're paying them that much money, we need to force them down people's throats. But it's definitely the wrong approach, and I definitely think they're taking a much better approach. Now, with that said, my good friend Phil Strum in the group today posted something saying that once the WWE
Oh,
Network starts,
yeah, saw
that
this.
NXT and Superstars, I think it is,
Yep.
are going to go head to head
Oh man.
with Impact Wrestling. I mean,
That's gonna well, at first you're like, oh, it's just superstars in NXT. First of all, NXT is, I think, the biggest threat to Impact than superstars. But at the same time, you get a WWE fan, you get a WWE kid who's really into wrestling, and he sees those guys more on TV. He's gonna tend to watch that over, TNA. And I don't know. It doesn't sound like a threat, but at the same time, Raz, it's a threat to them, and they could possibly wipe the board with TNA if that, I don't know. Do you think that'll pretty much happen, or?
I mean, I'm just throwing this out hypothetically, but the rumors are that Sting and Hogan are going to be WWE bound, and who's to say that as them signing potentially Legends contracts, who's to say that they don't show up like every now and then on NXT to like, help put over some of these younger talent, and it's going up against their old product. I mean, there's just so many endless things, but I hope in the end that it makes TNA better and getting themselves better prepared,
Sure.
to move on into the future here because I do think that they do have a lot of talent and they have the ability because there's a lot of guys on the indie scene that have a lot of talent that potentially that they could sign to unless all these guys are holding out for you know to come to the Mecca, the WWE.
Yeah, definitely. And a little bit more TNA talk. I mean, I always talked about how their backstage vignettes, or whatever you want to call them, were so much more better than WWE's, to where it's like a hidden camera TMZ-esque feel to it, And I thought that was great because when you watch WWE, they already got the pre-lit fake office, and, it's just so set up, and it's just like, I don't know, they kind of lose touch with it. But you know what I mean? Like, they were doing some things right and then some things wrong. And I mean, now that they're on the road with Impact Wrestling and not at the Orlando home of every week they were, do you think that's going to even hurt them more too? Because I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Well, I think what I'm getting to, and I know I'm rambling, but what I'm getting to is, do you think we could see the downfall of TNA this year?
Um, I'm not saying that it couldn't happen. I mean, it obviously most certainly could happen. I think that I think before that if they were to fold, I think that they would try to sell and do some things, But then you're hearing these rumors that Jeff Jarrett has something going on too as well, and he's trying to become another player. But I've heard and read some interesting things about him, as a person, and he's got a not to say like an ego, but he's like strong minded and like it's kind of I guess his way or whatever. But um, competition is good. You know, I hope for the state of wrestling too as well that we get to see more ROH
Oh
on
yeah.
TV potentially too as well, which would just be amazing for everybody because there's a lot of great talent there too as well. But like I said, getting back to TNA, you know, I wish them all the success in the world, but if whatever is happening is true, uh, I mean, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for them. But then again, as a smaller company, they don't have to be the ones to come out and say that WWE is our competition
Yeah.
because nobody can compete with them.
No, not
They're a
not.
machine. They're an absolute machine.
Yep, and they're pretty much unstoppable now ever since the takeover of WCW, and it's going to be a long time before anybody could, I think, really catch up to them and what they're doing. But never say never in the wrestling business, because we'll never know what happens in the next few years. But Raz, I mean, people want to know. What's going on right now in the state of wrestling? Doesn't matter if it's WWE, TNA, ROH, New Japan, whatever. Anything in wrestling, Raz. What is going on right now that you love? Gimmicks, wrestlers, superstars, whatever. What's some things that you love that's happening right now? And then what are some things that you absolutely cannot stand? I know the fans out there want to know this, Raz. Tell us what's going on.
Well, I'm going to throw it out there. The obvious choice is Daniel Bryan. I mean, the Yes movement is amazing, but it just seems that they don't have any faith in this guy carrying anything. And they try to throw these numbers at you, like, oh, when this guy's in the title picture, the ratings are this and blah blah blah. But the thing is that I think people realize that, well, he's not going to hold a belt for that long because they don't like him and they just like to give up. So it's like, it kind of puts you in a bad spot or whatever. But, um, some of the other things I do like Cesaro. I've been a big fan of his for quite a while. Him with this swing,
Yes.
the fans love it. And for a while there, I thought like, even though he was doing it, like they weren't trying to emphasize it, but now it's like picking steam up again.
Yep. Yep.
And the fact that he had Cena up doing it probably made a lot of marks out there who were anti-Cena
Oh
fans
yeah.
pretty happy, to say the least.
I know, how do you take a heel doing that to Cena? Like you just made him a babyface in one moment with all the older marks out there.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably what they're trying to do. Like they're gonna get him through this match, whatever, and somewhere there'll be a breakup, and he goes face, after Mania or something like that. But some other things that I like especially from the tag team division. I really like the Usos. I think that these guys are deserving of the tag team titles, but I'm at the point of like, who are they going to fight? Because all these tag teams keep breaking up.
I know, and I can't believe that too. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, that's it's amazing what's happening
And
with that.
and here's what I want to just throw at you because there's a lot going through my head lately, and it's like this: they want to have the tag team division, but it's like each and every year or year and a half or something like that, they break up the tag team division and then like try to rebuild it again.
I know.
And it's like weird because what's going to happen is whoever's the tag champ, like they hold the belts the whole time because it's like they're trying to develop these other guys. So it's like when the Usos finally win it, it's gonna like mean nothing because people are gonna be like, "Oh, I'm tired and I'm done."
I know. Well, Rez, tell us what are some of the things that you're just absolutely hating right now? I mean, character-wise, or just things going on that you just can't stand in professional wrestling.
The 619 Rey Mysterio.
Booyaka!
I am so
Booyaka!
done with this guy. Like, okay, you had a great career. You were 5'2" world champion or whatever. Still not believable. You know, I mean, just what? Ride off into the sunset. I'm sure you made a lot of money, and you know, just please go away. I'm tired of wanting the Rey Mysterio versus your buddy Alberto Del Rio.
Oh.
You know, I'm sure we're gonna get that at Mania, just because, just because, whatever.
Just because we hate it, and that's gonna be the pre-show, hopefully.
No, that's gonna be like the match in between the third to last match and the main event. Kind of, we're gonna get something like that. And it's just gonna be like, what the hell? But that's one thing I don't like right now. I'm trying to think of some other things that I'm not very happy about. Um, I mean, I guess like you know, I'm tired of in some ways the WWE like kind of dictating who we should like and who we shouldn't.
Yeah.
I just think back to um, the Dolph Zigglers, the Daniel Bryans, the Zack Ryders. Like, I mean, like that guy put himself over, and the WWE was just like, "All right, here's my boot. I've just watched you. Like, you're done. Like, don't ever do that again."
Yeah.
It's like, come on, the guy's trying to earn a living here, and like you said a few weeks ago, the guy's sitting home Monday night watching Raw like the rest of us.
Right, Raz. I mean, we're marks, man. We're fans. We love this. We love it. We live it, And do you think it comes down to like why aren't they listening to what we want lately? I mean, I don't want to hear the people out there being like, well, it's not with the story and, it's not what's best for business and all this stuff. But honestly, when you hear fans react to like Daniel Bryan that much, I mean, don't you think the payoff for that whole year of fans doing that is winning the title at WrestleMania? I don't know, but like all in all, do you feel like they're just not listening to fans and they're just doing whatever they want to do? Is that good or bad? And I don't know, like how do you feel about it? Because I just feel like they're not entertaining the people who are paying them. You know what I mean?
Well, not for nothing. I mean, here's how it goes. The WWE has us in the palm of their hands. They know whatever they do, we're going to come back for more. And we're going to buy the T-shirts. We're going to buy the programs, the souvenir cups, the John Cena hats, the John Cena T-shirts. that we're going to buy each and everything. And that's the problem. The problem is that if the fans really wanted to get through to the WWE, they would stop buying tickets to Raw and they would stop buying pay-per-views.
Could you imagine that, Raz? Could you imagine, like, granted, let's say if Batista versus Orton was really set in stone and nothing's going to change it, could you imagine if that was the last match at WrestleMania and 80+ thousand people just get up and leave? What do you do? That would be epic live TV, just people leaving. I mean, that would totally be a big FU to, like, all of them. And I kind of deep down wish I would see that happen, just to see that happen. But, I mean, is it something that drastic where it's going to happen to be, like, we're not coming to the show that they have to change it? I mean, can't they read us better than that? I mean, with all social media and all that, can't they at least listen to us and entertain us a little bit?
I mean, honestly, they need to. In some ways, I think that they are right because you know what? When you're telling a story, you're not just gonna, jump right to the end and call it a day. Like you have to
Oh, yeah, yeah.
progress to it, and I understand that. But the fact is that you know, in any situation, whether you're trying to tell a story, you're trying to make a movie, and things happen, you're like, oh my god, I just saw a different vision. I just saw. Look at this crowd. I mean, I've never seen a crowd this big pop for somebody when Daniel Bryan comes out. I mean, everybody in Unison is doing the yes, yes, yes chant, and it's absolutely amazing. And it's just like, throw the guy a bone, like give him an opportunity.
I know, and that it goes back to where I was saying before about Cena, and I don't hate him. I don't hate the guy. I like Cena personally. I mean, I like what he does. I like who he is. I like his character. Believe it or not, of course I boo at him just for fun. It's like booing. If you don't boo Cena, it's like not doing the yes chant at a show. But what I'm getting to is. I don't know what I'm getting to, Raz.
Well, I'll tell you what you were getting to. What you were comparing him to
Yes.
is like NSYNC, okay? Back in the day, Steve, I know you used to listen to NSYNC. When people came around, you turned up and be like, oh man, I really hate those guys. But when you walked away, you were doing the NSYNC dance or whatever. And that's like with John Cena, we all love him, but when we're all together or whatever, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't like this guy because but I want to actually throw out there because Monday night on Raw, him and Cesaro was amazing. And this isn't the first time that Cena has had a phenomenal match. And I hate the people out there that say that like Cena can't wrestle because he's had this match with him, he's had the matches with Punk, Daniel Bryan or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yes, those guys can work, but obviously it takes two to tango. And he has proven that he can wrestle too as well. Even though, everybody says he's only got 5 moves, but whatever.
Yeah, and if you look at it too, everybody's talking about Cena Cesaro. If you look at SmackDown, you had Cesaro versus Orton, and he beat Orton. And right now, what we're looking at is a guy who can wrestle with anybody, who can put over guys, just like Ziggler, just like Bryan. I think those guys, like Ziggler, Bryan, Cesaro, right now are in my top 5 of guys who could work with anybody, make them look good, make them, win, lose, or draw. Whoever they're working with, it's a great match. And that's it goes back to, I think that's what I was trying to get to before. My point of these guys is that you have to keep building them up, and I said before, you can't rely on John Cena for 10 years or 5 years of carrying everything, and you need that handful of guys at the top, and you just can't leave it at that one guy to carry the whole company. And what I want to get into though is a brief mention about that tag team talk, because I'm a big advocate of, I like Legion of Doom, I like Demolition, I like the Rockers, I like tag teams that were tag teams. I loathe when they put 2 people together and call them a tag team. I hated, granted, the Rhodes brothers kind of had a gimmick to where they were brothers, but I hate when they just put 2 random people together and it's a tag team, like Jericho and Big Show. I hated it. It's stupid. I hate seeing singles guys who could do good being put together as a tag team. Now, granted, you had Cesaro and Swagger put together, and I didn't like it because I still think Cesaro is a better singles wrestler and should be used as a singles wrestler. But they kind of, got together and came up with a gimmick, had some matching gear, and it was fine. But now, like we were talking about before, the breakup of what looks to be the real Americans, the breakup of primetime players, the breakup of the Rhodes brothers, almost, maybe, who knows what's happening with that. But I mean, like you said, it's the downfall of tag teams. But what is happening? Because the whole point was to try to build up the tag team division, and now it's like, what do we start from scratch again? I can't believe that they broke up so many tag teams that fast. Where do you see it going? I mean, is it just going to be two guys paired up as usual, and we're not going to get any real tag teams? I think the last real tag team right now is the Usos, right?
Well, excuse me. One thing I was actually going to say first is the Real Americans. I'm digging deeper with this one, and obviously the WWE knows that Cesaro, is a guy that has wrestled all over the world, and that he can go. And I think with Swagger, I think this is Swagger's punishment from his little incident prior to WrestleMania last year.
Oh yeah,
People forget
weed
about
the
that.
people.
Yes, weed the people. And it was like they couldn't stop whatever they were doing, and it's like they ran with it, and now it's like, okay, well, we're going to punish him now. So whatever. Maybe that's what it is. As far as the Rhodes brothers goes, there's always been talks that they want to have a match at Mania, and I think, the way that those two have been going, I think both have been elevated as the champs there, and I think that they could definitely have a great match too as well. As far as the primetime players go, I didn't see that breakup coming. I thought they still had more to give to the business. Maybe one day they'll go back as a tag team again, but I just think when you break up a tag team like that so soon, uh, it's doomed for one of the two guys.
Yeah.
And it's probably uh, I mean,
I think they're high right now in Titus, though, and granted, Darren Young. I mean, I really don't want this to sound bad, but given the all right, it's probably gonna sound bad. Given the part that he came out as being gay, it's not a big deal. And I don't know how WWE would do this, but to use that as like. Do you think they would ever use that as like a gimmick? Like he's the gay wrestler. As bad as that sounds, I'm not even trying to make it bad, but you know what I mean?
No, I mean I get it, whatever. I don't think that they're trying to go that way. I mean, he does have a pretty good personality, whatever, and he obviously can talk or whatever. But I mean, Titus, I can understand why they're big on. He's a big guy. He can wrestle. So I see that. But with Darren, maybe he gets another tag team partner or something like that. Who knows? I mean, they'll probably end up sticking him with like, Brodus Clay or something.
I know, because I think unfortunately when you look at him, I think Titus was the Shawn Michaels and Darren was the Marty Jannetty. Because I think Darren's better off in a tag team. But now that you're splitting him up, I mean, I don't see him as a good solo wrestler. I mean, granted, he could, but I mean, they were, I think, primetime players. We're talking about the splitting of tag teams. They had something good going, and they just never were given that push to be tag team champions because they kept giving the belts to two guys that weren't really a tag team. And then they break all these guys up after building them for the past few years. And I don't know, Razz. I mean, what do you think's going to happen with the future of tag team wrestling? Are we just going to see two guys pairing it up, or are we going to actually see real teams again where classic, like Legion of Doom and Demolition? That's what I think of when I see tag teams. But
well, I mean, let's not forget too. I mean, we got the Shield that's teasing a breakup too as well, and
that's right. Yep.
I mean, who knows, what's going to happen here? But I'm going to let things, like I've said, to a lot of marks who are upset about, CM Punk walking out. Is it real? Is it a work? Let whatever it is, let it play out. Be happy for whatever happens, whatever. Some guys are just not necessarily meant for the business, or they're just in it for themselves or in it for money. And once they get to that level, they're comfortable walking away. So I mean, it is what it is. But getting back to the whole tag team thing, I mean, there's a lot of guys in NXT. There's a great tag team down there called the Ascension, who, I think that they have a potential to be a worthy tag team. So they have the right format. They are starting to build tag teams, whether it's on the main roster, but also in their so-called minor leagues. So I'm not going to say that the tag team division is dead again.
Yep.
but break out the defibrillator here because we need to jump start it again.
Well, how about this? I mean, we're talking a little bit about tag teams and championships. Let's move on to the unified World or WWE World Heavyweight Championship. To me, it bothers me that they're still carrying around that old WCW title after they paid how much money for that brand new WWE Championship. What do you think is going to happen with that? Because I've been reading a few places that they almost kind of need it back because the IC championship isn't even at the top spotlight what it should have been after that whole unification, and now like we just saw on Raw the past few weeks where the first time the U.S. title was defended in over how many months, and I mean, like, what are they doing with championships anymore? I feel like they don't know what to do with them anymore. Almost, I don't know. How do you feel about the whole, the unification and then the other lower card belts? I mean, do you see anything happening better with that after Mania or what? I don't know. I can't even put anything on that.
I could be completely botching this quote or whatever, and it's been a long day today, but I think I remember reading recently something about Jake the Snake Roberts talking about the title, and how the title makes certain guys, and it's not that the guy like makes the title, and one of the things, to your point there is, you know if you're not going to defend these titles, like they're useless around some of these guys' waist. With the U.S. title, I mean, like I said, it hasn't been defended. If you're not going to defend it, get it off the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, unless they have a plan in terms of like, it's going to cause like the breakup or something like that, or it's going to be like a three-way match, a Mania between the three guys of the Shield or something like that. That I can understand or whatever if they have a plan, but like use the belt, I'm kind of to the point where I'm like, you know what? Maybe they need some sort of like TV title, like where it's defended each week on Raw, and you get title changes there. I mean,
well, that's the thing too, Raz. I mean, like ever since the brand separation, when they stopped doing that, I mean, like SmackDown doesn't have its own title necessarily. Raw doesn't have its own title. They kind of sharing the titles now. But do you think that's a problem too, to where, or do you think like each show should have its own title that they defend? For example, main event, maybe they're defending the IC Championship and Divas Championship. SmackDown, it's always the US Championship and tag titles, and then Raw. You know what I mean? Like, do you think each show should be showcasing one specific title? Would that help it? I don't know. I mean, there's so many options to think about, but
well, again, it comes back to let's see how things shake out with the WWE Network, because I do think that eventually we may get where there's a specific title it's defended on main event or superstars or whatever. Plus you had the titles on NXT as well.
yeah.
So I mean, there are a lot of titles floating around, and maybe they just don't want to like oversaturate like the market with all these titles, because then the titles aren't as valuable, whatever. But then again, are they as valuable when they're sitting on the same person?
Exactly.
For as long as they have, and it's not really doing anything to elevate others.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like, why do they even have them if they're not defending them? And they loses the importance of it, what it comes down to. But Raz, man, we've been on a long road of off the mark tonight. We've talked about a bunch of everything: WrestleMania, TNA, Tag Team Championships. Man, we talked about the history of being a mark and how we all got started here. But Raz, we're almost at WrestleMania, one of the biggest shows of the year. I want you to tell me, what would the Razz want to see at this year's WrestleMania? And I don't care if it's not going to happen. It doesn't have to be realistic, but almost realistic to the guys. You have to use the guys now that could be in it. I don't want to see like Bruno Sammartino versus John Cena. You know what I mean? Like, give me a WrestleMania this year that you would pay to go to, and I don't know. Be creative. Give me something. What would the Razz want to see? I think that's what people want to hear. What would you want to see this year?
Well, not for nothing. I wish that, and I know a lot of marks out there would not want this to happen, but I would love for John Cena to somehow win the title between now and WrestleMania, and for Daniel Bryan to win the Elimination Chamber, and to have Bryan beat John Cena at WrestleMania, obviously we know that's not going to happen because Dave Bautista's got his spot, but somehow we gotta make sure that doesn't happen, whatever. But it would be awesome to like have, Daniel Bryan beat John Cena at WrestleMania because that place would absolutely go nuts. One because they love Daniel Bryan, but two, a lot of people out there, aren't Cena fans, and so that would be awesome. Another thing, as much as we've talked about it and we hate it, at this point, let's just do it because I think they have one more match in them. Taker, Sting. I think that they can leave it all on the line
Sure.
and give us one good, solid match before they hang them up. Um, just trying to think of some other things that I would love to see. Um, I would have loved to have seen CM Punk have a
Oh,
good match here
I know.
on this show. But look, I understand where he's coming from because he had the best show or the best match last year. He deserved something this year, and it just wasn't going to happen. So I'm not going to fault the guy for
Oh yeah,
doing what he believes is
of
right.
course, of course.
Um, just trying to think of some other things that I'd love to see. Um, I'd love to see Sheamus lose and turn heel some way, shape, or form. Cesaro, love to see him have some sort of match that you would remember and to help him, you know, get even bigger than the push he's starting to get now. Um, so I mean, there's just a lot of different things.
How about would you want to see a Divas Championship being defended at WrestleMania for once? I don't think the Divas Championship has been defended at a WrestleMania. I can't even count how long or when it was last. But I mean, would you like to see maybe a women's match at WrestleMania?
I mean, not for nothing. One of two things I would love. One, that AJ fights Mickey James, who is a free agent, or even two. Um, and I'm just trying to think who else. I do believe we have a diva that's going into the WWE Hall of Fame this year.
Lita.
Lita, who would
She,
also.
she could still go. I'll tell you that. I
Oh,
mean, I would
sure.
love to see her come back for a one more match kind of thing. And what about like even a Divas Money in the Bank? Would that entice you? As long as it was good wrestlers, because like right now I would want to see like Natalia, Naomi, hell, throw Lita and Mickey James in there. But like like some of the girls, they can't do a lot of good spots. No offense to you, but we've all seen the matches. But I mean, do you think coming from the ladies' man perspective, that might be something that you would want to see this year?
No, probably not. I just think that and it's no offense against the divas themselves, but that match is just it's crazy. It gets crazy, like
Yeah.
guys are throwing ladders and whatnot, and I just
Sure.
don't see them poor AJ taking a bump off a ladder or whatever. Um, but I do agree that something has to happen, and I think that it's time to get the belt off AJ because it. I mean, again, you're putting these titles on, and we all thought a couple months ago that Natalia was going to win the title, and she didn't. She needs a title. Like,
I
give
know.
her a
For
title.
I
Like,
know the one girl that can actually really wrestle doesn't have the championship, and that just blows my mind. Well, Raz, I mean, we talked a bunch. We talked about a bunch of different topics. I want to give you the last word on this. I mean, anything you want to plug or anything you want to just say for the end of the show. I know we rambled on, but that's the whole point about it. It's just one on one, on off the mark. We got to hear your point of views about different things. Anything else, Raz, you want to add to before we leave?
well, not for nothing. We just had an Iron Man match because we just hit the hour mark. So,
Yeah, right. Look at
no, I mean, not for nothing. I'm excited to be a Mark. Come Sunday, Elimination Chamber is going to be phenomenal. Monday, with the network starting, and then the road to WrestleMania. Uh, and not only that, but the road to digging out of 3.5 feet of snow or whatever that we have still up
that.
here. But no, I mean it's good, to be Mark. That we've had some good times in the group, lots of great chats. All you Marks out there, I must say one thing. You're all crazy. You're all crazy, but in a good way, of course.
There you go. Razz, man, I mean, you could find us online. You can find the Razz at Razz Nation on Twitter. Follow this guy. You can see us tomorrow night on Marked Up, episode 68, the Elimination Chamber special. All of our links and all that fun stuff are on marksforlife.net. Head on over there. You'll find us. You'll be hearing this episode very soon. And, guys, I mean, we got off the mark tonight with the Razz, so be sure to tune in next time when we'll get off the mark with somebody else. But Razz, thanks for joining me tonight.
Hey,
and
it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And ladies, I am single and ready to mingle.
There you go, man. Selling the gimmick till the end. Razz, I'll see you tomorrow on Marked Up, buddy.
See you then.
Here we go!